So today we're joined by the team from EcoFlow, one of the fastest growing innovators in battery storage technology and renewable energy. We're going to be talking about the evolution of home energy storage, the technology behind EcoFlow's products, and why Renergy Solutions has chosen to partner with EcoFlow to bring these solutions to homeowners and businesses across the UK. We'll also discuss where the industry is heading, what customers should be looking for when investing in renewable energy, and how battery storage is changing the way people think about electricity. So let's begin. Okay, so who is EcoFlow? That's how we're going to start. But before we begin to dive into the products, I just want to start by talking about the company itself. So I'm going to head over to Charlie and Miles and we'll start asking them some questions. Charlie, Miles. So could you just tell us a little bit about EcoFlow and the company itself?
Yeah, so EcoFlow was founded in 2017 in China by sort of battery engineers. I think that's where it came from. And I think they saw a real gap in the market, more so around portable power stations. I think that's when it was kind of hitting the market. And I think they had a bit of a vision that they could do it a lot better. So they first had the river, the EcoFlow river that hit the market in 2017. And from there, they've just gone from strength to strength, bringing out new products. And now obviously we've come into residential storage as well, and also into plug-in solar, some more balcony solar and storage. So yeah, it kind of started from the power stations, and then over time they built it into something a lot bigger.
Okay, Charlie. So I had probably 3 or 4 talking points there to ask you questions about, and you pretty much nailed every single one of them.
Okay.
Right there, straight away.
First rodeo, is it?
Yeah. There you go.
You can tell you've done this before. So that's brilliant. Seems like EcoFlow have come a long way really quickly, and they've sort of diversified what products they're doing and straight away, and they've all taken off really well. Brilliant company growth. Brilliant growth journey. So it seems like you have a global presence. It's saying it started off in China, and now you're really big in the UK. Are there any other markets that you're sort of really heavily involved in?
Yeah, I think if we just more so think about Europe, I think it's the UK and Germany is our biggest markets, but we're also in France, we're in the Netherlands, we're in Spain, Portugal. I think there's actually 150 countries in total.
155 countries at the moment, covering Nordics all the way to Eastern States, all the way to North America, South America, Asia. Australia is one of our more recent markets that we moved into, with possibilities of expansion into New Zealand markets. On top of that, we then have the African markets as well.
Wow. So those battery engineers way back then, they didn't really have any idea how big they were going to be, did they?
No, yeah, I think that's just credit to them and the innovation. I think, there's a huge part of our company is just R&D. I think you can see that with the products, and I think that's why they've grown so quickly across the globe.
Just sort of jumping back a minute, I forgot to introduce Elliot, sat to my right. He's one of the latest directors at Renergy Solutions. He's a well-known figure in the industry, worked for many, many companies, Spark, Project Solar UK, Evergen, SolarFast. So yeah, basically he's now come to Renergy to help us with our growth and strategy. And I just wondered if you had anything you wanted to add in there?
I mean, I absolutely love the EcoFlow products. This industry is always ever changing. We see battery companies, they grow really quickly because there's such a high demand here in the UK, but technology is always ever changing. Installers, they flip between different kind of manufacturers because everybody offers something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
With EcoFlow, they've got such a versatile range of products, which not only do customers love, but installers love fitting as well. And I think that's very important because the installers are the ones which are selling to the customers. We're the ones that are fitting the products. We're the ones which are recommending what kind of products that we like to install and what the installers really push towards customers. So
No, I think
it's a fantastic product, to be honest.
Well, I think that's very well said. As an installer myself, I can attest to how much we all love EcoFlow, not just with how simple they can be for us to install due to the hard work put in behind the scenes by EcoFlow, but at the end of the day, when you finish your installation, how great they look, how pleased the customer is.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I mean, I've been over to China twice, very luckily, with EcoFlow. Miles and Charlie mentioned about the R&D which EcoFlow put into all their products and their innovation. I've seen it firsthand, the support and the technology behind the company itself. They do reinvest a hell of a lot in R&D, which then trickles down the line, which really helps develop their product. They give installers what they are after, and more importantly, you listen. So over the last couple of years, you didn't have a gateway competing with companies like Tesla and SIG, for example. You've listened to installers, you've given them what they're after. Now we have the gateway. So it's these little small innovations which then allow EcoFlow to then keep their edge on the market.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you should mention those sort of things that they're doing. I was actually wanting to ask Charlie and Miles about EcoFlow's long-term vision. So we've sort of sidelined pretty nicely into that. If you could just give me something about that.
So the vision of EcoFlow at the moment is we've got all the residential for expanding, filling all the gaps that our competitors have at the moment in the market, and we're basically bringing out new innovations to fill those gaps. For example, the Ocean 2 Plus, filling in the 6 to 12 kilowatt option range for single phase. But then we are also then expanding into the C&I market, which is a current project for this year. At Intersolar currently, we're releasing all of our C&I battery storage systems, as well as the C&I inverters, beta, vehicle to grid and vehicle to home, EV car chargers, AC and DC chargers as well. On top of that, we've also got an 8 kilowatt hour battery coming out soon, which will be released at Solar Storage Live Birmingham. So I think currently at the stages we're at, we've got all the portable and dominant portable market. We pretty much come into the residential market globally, now with different systems, different markets. And we are currently constantly expanding the residential side, but we're trying to keep the innovation, so product ranges, look compatible with each other. So you're mixing and matching systems, you're not outdating systems. We're keeping the innovation of software. So people with existing systems, older systems will still have the same software technology that all the new modern products will have. So we're not outdating any of our product range. We're not neglecting any of our existing systems, but then we're expanding onto the larger range and larger systems for import, export tariffs and capabilities of export trading as well, and expansion of battery storage systems. So we're trying to give the customers the capability to constantly keep expanding their systems without having to buy a whole new product for their property. On top of that, we're then expanding battery storage sizing. For example, with the Ocean 2 Plus systems now, you can then expand all the way up to 60 kilowatt hours of battery storage on one single phase inverter. But then you've still got the scalability that you can add in EV car chargers, air source heat pumps. So pretty much we're trying to keep the innovation alive with not outdating products, but making everything compatible with existing product ranges, software updates and everything. We don't want to outdate our customers that already have systems. We want to keep them on the top of their performance in the market.
No, I think that's really great. Now, like I said, being an installer, I see many different types of systems. Hopefully, I'm going to start only really seeing EcoFlow systems. That's what I'd like to see. But what I have noticed with all the other companies out there creating their own products is that they do tend to forget about the customers they've already sold systems to, and they're bringing out new products and they're just not compatible with the old systems. So I think that's something really great that EcoFlow are doing. And I hope it works out well, not just for EcoFlow, but for the actual customers themselves spending their own hard-earned money on these products. I just wanted to jump back to something you said about car to grid and car to home. I don't think many companies out there are thinking about that seriously at the moment, when it is going to be a massive part of the home of 2030.
I think as our consumption habits change, as government regulations then change, we need to be on top of these new innovations. And vehicle to home charging, the bi-directional EV chargers, is just that another step of something which is about to land, which you need a product to be able to fill that gap. I think that's important.
It's a very big thing in the government policy changes and the future plans for government policy changes. So manufacturers are able to keep up to speed with what the government wants to do and what the government wants to plan for the systems, but then also look at what the actual benefit to end users are now. So with the vehicle to grid charging, straightforward, being able to export and draw power from grid and battery storage, either or. But then with the vehicle to home charging, it then allows people that can't have the capabilities of battery storage on their home, but they're able to then have the electric car. They can then use.
It's one of the biggest batteries you're ever going to buy, which is just sat on your driveway. Being able to use that to power your house, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah,
but you need the technology to be able to do that. The bi-directional EV,
and that's what I thought. I thought it was really great that EcoFlow are actually thinking about this already. Thinking about this already when government policy has been a little bit slow moving towards this, but it is definitely coming. So it's great that you guys are ready and waiting for that change. That pretty much brings me to the next thing I really wanted to talk to you both about and have a little discussion about, which is why battery storage is booming at the moment. Now, from myself being in the industry quite a while now, I noticed that 5 years ago, most customers were pretty much only interested in solar panels. It seemed to be that every system being sold, it was not even a thought on somebody's mind to get the battery storage as well. Whereas today, almost every conversation I have with a potential customer or a customer themselves that have just purchased a system is about battery storage. Why do you think battery storage has become such a major focus?
I think with the cost of the energy market going up, the cost of bills, cost of housing, cost of everything, end users are now trying to find ways to cut their bills and things down. So dynamic tariffs, intelligent tariffs are becoming a very big thing. Over the last 6 months to a year, the capabilities of being able to do kind of trading with your energy as well, gain money back from your system. I think this is one of the big kind of deal aspects. When it came to last year, they didn't all have the capabilities of doing energy trading. Energy trading become a big thing. So that's why battery sizing and expansion on homes has become a big thing. People are now going down to the net zero pathway. So with the net zero pathway, people don't want to pay any energy. So having more battery storage, being able to export with DNOs and applications with export capabilities being expanded and talked about and upgraded constantly. The grid can't handle full energy supply anymore. With the quantity of people living in, for example, the UK, it's too high on the energy aspect. They have to charge more for energy usage because the energy is limited. People then going down to their minimum of energy. So the option around that is now battery storage. Battery storage is becoming pretty much a heavy talked about topic, especially on the export trading side of things, with the electric cars increasing in the market as well. People are trying to find alternative ways to cut money on their bills. Tariffs are doing a great job with that, but then the homeowner is still having to pay for it. With the battery storage, they're then able to set time of use intelligent tariffs as well to then basically, the more batteries you have, the more power you have that you're not likely to use. You'll use the bare minimum of what you need for your house, and then you put all that battery storage, your day-to-day energy that's just being wasted.
Yeah.
What can end users do with that? So now it's selling it back to the grids constantly or selling it to your neighbors. From that aspect, you can then go down to a net zero with the more batteries you have, which is why the sales of batteries are increasing now. From that, they're able to basically store as much power as they like, sell the power back to the grid, get down to a net zero, but then also then start making profit on the side of it. Just that would be an income.
Exactly. I think outside of cost, though, I think it's heavily on control and independence. I think with what's going on in the world, I know obviously cost is really important, but when something jumps out of nowhere, it's kind of unexpected. And I think people, especially in the UK, with us Brits, we don't like kind of change all of a sudden, and we kind of feel like we're being hard done by. So I think with battery storage, you can obviously store it, but you can manage your energy a lot better. And I think then having less reliance on the grid
Security, isn't it?
Better, yeah. I don't want something happening on the other side of the world to impact my bill overnight, and I've got no control over that. So I think with storage, the bigger you go, obviously that's what a lot of people are going for. They have more control, and I think that's a big factor.
Which sort of goes back to what you were saying earlier. I mean, how big can we go with an EcoFlow system? What's the largest sort of amount of battery storage a customer can have in their house? For example, for a heavy user, somebody who's got an air source heat pump, or for the lucky few that have a jacuzzi or anything that has a large drain on their energy usage.
So it pretty much varies depending on whether or not you've got single or three phase within your property. For example, with single phase, you can go all the way from having a string inverter all the way up to 60 kilowatt hours battery storage per inverter, but then you can also cascade that. So with the Ocean 2 Plus, you can then have multiple inverters connected together with 60 kilowatt hours of battery storage on each, which will allow you to go up to 120 kilowatt hours of battery storage on a residential home or single phase. Then you go to the three-phase side of the systems, and then you can go up to 29.9 kilowatt inverters with our three-phase plus. That will then allow you to have 60 kilowatt hours of battery storage on one inverter, but then cascade it 3 times. So then you're up to 180 kilowatt hours of battery storage is capable in a residential home.
What about businesses? Because obviously we've just had into solar. You've just released the new C&I battery capacity units that you then have. Is it the Atlas and also the Alp system that you've now got coming out? We also then fit residential customers, but a good portion of our business is in also commercial.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the commercial batteries, because it's fairly new that you've just released.
So the commercial batteries is very new. So if we go back a little bit to the residential side as well, we're also releasing the kilowatt hour battery. So that will allow you to get more batteries on the residential side once that's released into the UK market. But then with the C&I, we've just launched the 20 kilowatt hour battery storage stack systems. So that's for your commercial users. It's a cabinet system where you can have multiple batteries. It's up to, I think it's 100 kilowatts per side of the unit, and you can have multiple units. But this will kind of take away the restriction of how much quantity of battery storage you have, and then we can go into the larger ground mount systems, solar farm aspects, also C&I companies as well. So we're kind of creeping into the C&I market with the larger and larger systems.
Can I just jump in quickly? Sorry, that is a game changer.
It is.
Because absolutely no one has really given any thought to this size of battery storage and taken it seriously. Industry has sort of never been able to really have a large amount of battery storage. You see panels covering warehouses, covering businesses, and like you say, the solar farms, there's no battery storage. There pretty much never is. So that's absolutely brilliant that EcoFlow are taking that step and are moving towards that. So I just felt like that.
We also have another portion of that kind of commercial element where you've got the really large scale is looked after. You have the residential, which is looked after. But what about kind of smaller commercials? It's kind of also be relatively missed, which allows us to open up that market.
So with that market, not only do we open up the larger end of the market, there with our existing Ocean plus 3-phase inverters. They go all the way up to 29.9 kilowatt inverters and go down to 15 with full backup capabilities. That's still using the existing battery models as well. So
We flip between the residential and the commercial with the existing stacks which are already there.
exactly, and then you can mix and match the old and the battery models. So yeah, C&I market needs to expand on a system they've already got. They can constantly keep expanding without having to change the entire system. On top of that, life cycles, battery safety features in C&I is a huge thing as well. So you've got all the fire suppression modules in every battery. You've got heating monitoring systems at 70 points per battery, temperature heating and cooling systems in all of them. So you can install in indoors or outdoors. The IP ratings are going up to IP66 for everything as well.
That's brilliant.
So it's quite a big expansion. But with that, we kind of have the 3-phase where you can sit between residential and C&I and use the same product to either or, which kind of gives you a bit of flexibility at that lower end for a C&I market. It also then allows you on price budgets to then look at the larger inverter models that are currently being released, which will be released into the UK with a little insight into services like Birmingham, and probably available by early next year. But then it kind of still gives you the overlap between chopping and changing depending on the size of the system. The thing with C&I is they aim to get to net zero, but then they can't export.
Yeah.
So they're going for the bare minimum and requirement of what they need to meet that net zero margin. So having that flexibility between sizing, scalability of batteries so that they can chop and change to the specific needs of their amount of in need, it kind of opens up the market heavily for us.
Are they also enabled for other revenue streams as well? So like, for example, we touched briefly on virtual power plants and demand flexibility, but the C&I batteries, they're also able to do that, yeah?
It's something we are looking into, but it's still working very well. So.
No doubt on that later. EcoFlow, we'll get there soon.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, again, another really great segment there about the battery storage. You guys are really, really pushing on with all aspects of the market and giving everybody what they need. So that's brilliant. Like we say, customers are becoming more interested in energy independence rather than simple bill savings. And that's from right down at the domestic level to some of the largest commercials as well. So that's brilliant. So I'd like to move on to just something else that I wanted to talk to you about really is, which is quite important actually. What should customers be focusing on? Everybody's energy situation is different. Everybody's looking to approach it in a different way, but there are some main points that everybody should be considering when purchasing a solar system with battery storage. So one of the biggest mistakes homeowners tend to make, in my opinion, is that they're comparing systems purely on price. And a lot of people I know go for the cheap option and then months down the line, years down the line, massively regret it and wish that they'd taken more of a look at the products on the market. So if somebody's considering solar and battery storage today, what's the one thing you believe? And I'll start off with you, Miles, and we'll move over to each one of us here. What's the one thing you believe they should focus on more than just the price?
I think it's a large topic area. Focusing just on price is bare minimum. Manufacturers, distributors, everyone's on competitive pricing. everyone's kind of bouncing between pricing. But I think the biggest concern for homeowners is getting down to that net zero, saving the money for them, but then having the independence and self-sufficiency to kind of live day to day without spending a fortune on electric and usage and having to worry about the usage. I think the scalability of batteries and the way tariffs and things are going, it's pretty much a never-ending market. People now want to make the money back. I think it's looking at the use case, the amount of solar they can put on their system, the amount of PV generation they're going to get, how much power they're using in the house. It's calculate everything accurately. I think a lot of people go for the bare minimum without understanding the full picture of what they want out of their system. For example, a lot of people go with G98 applications for 3.68 inverters, but then they don't actually calculate the fact that they're using, say, 8, 10, 12 kilowatts of power consumption in their house, and the inverters are only going to push it. It's designing a system for end users that will meet their requirements, what they need to get them down to net zero, but then also allow them to make money afterwards. And it's that education to the end users that I think is of the highest importance of way.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree anymore. Do you feel you have anything to add to that at all, Joe?
I think the biggest thing for me that I talk about quite a lot is our service. And I think if you're making a long-term investment, our warranty is 15 years. I mean, that's a long time.
It is.
And I think people want to be reassured that if something goes wrong, that we're going to be there for them. So our UK-based service engineers is pretty good, pretty market leading. And I think a lot of installers and homeowners really rely on that. So I think if you're thinking about it, and you've been kind of offered a brand of, storage or even solar, I think looking into the company, looking into the brand, have they got people, locally that you can call, that they can come out and, basically help you with the install or kind of follow up if you've got any problems. So I think the biggest thing is for EcoFlow outside of price or product specs is actually the service that you're going to get from the company at the same time.
Yeah, very true. I think I'd also add on to that, like the USPs of all these batteries which are on the market. For a customer just dipping their toe into solar, there are so many different products which are out there. It can be a nightmare for you to kind of land on which one would be right. So having a good comparison of different batteries is equally important.
But then you've also highlighted the one of the big factors that is a big eye-opener is the safety features now in systems. Homeowners want that safety. They want the reliability that with all the media coverage and things of seeing fires and the systems catching on fire, they want that safety. They want to have a system with all the safety features.
It don't mean much to customers. This is why customers will then go to the installer and ask for recommendations. But for example, if I say to people, PAD 63100, customers may not know what that is. It's the installer's job to make sure that we're compliant with PAD 63100 to meet the MCS criteria that we have to. But having batteries which are compliant with PAD 63100, so ideally installing them outside, actually selecting a battery which is IP65, IP66, which has fire suppression modules being built in, is important. But then you've got other factors you need to consider. Are we sizing the batteries correctly? I am fully aware that customers, there's no entry-level product into solar. Either you spend thousands of pounds or you don't do it at all. Mm-hmm. But what's nice is with EcoFlow, and there are other manufacturers out there, when you look at modular systems, you can dip your toe in. You don't have to spend thousands straight up front. You can have a smaller size system, but where the systems are modular, you can then add in more battery stacks. That's important for people that may not necessarily want to spend thousands of pounds or just see how they get on with the system, have a look at their consumption, learn to live with the system. Because it's not just about the batteries, you're also been changing consumer habits. So in the property, for example, normally put your washing machine on in the evening just before you go to bed, or the dishwasher, for example. Well, learning to live with a system, we use that, for example. Right, dishwasher goes on during the day now, the electric's on, it's free. You're getting the most out of your system, but then also your battery storage really should be useful for your evening consumption when we've got no sun.
And stops you from wasting a life cycle.
Exactly, it's a reservoir for all the electric, so we're not having to draw from the grid in the evening, but it's then sizing that battery according to the customer's consumptions.
Yeah.
But consumptions are always fluid. Throughout the winter, our consumption's higher. In the summer, it's smaller. Our families grow. Our needs for electric then change. We have electric cars. So that's why having a modular size system is equally important. And you mentioned about the new batteries coming out. Can't wait to see it at Solar and Storage in September. But being able to mix and match different battery sizing as well
and not having to worry about old products not being compatible with new products.
Exactly. But one thing we haven't mentioned is being able to monitor systems is equally important to a customer. So it's all right having a battery storage system inside your house, but how is it performing? Am I getting that optimized for me? So with AI integration, which is all the rage at the moment, it is so important to make sure that these batteries are being optimized to match our consumption. We haven't even touched about AI HEMS, the home energy management system, alongside the Power Insight tablets, which ground customers to be able to see, right, how much am I drawing from the grid? How much am I generating from my panels? How much is stored in my battery?
Well, Elliot,
How can I make the most out of it? It's a vast topic that we can talk about, but
I don't know if you've noticed, but we've actually got a Power Insight.
oh, there we go. That was right in front of that little plant in front of me. There you go.
Yeah, so it is. I feel that I'm perhaps not the person to best sort of describe the Power Insight tablet. As an installer myself, all I know about is that once I give this to a customer, all of them seem to be over the moon with what they're receiving. To me, it's so much better than having to log onto your phone or log onto an app and see what's going on with your system. The guys most of the time install this in a customer's kitchen or a living space where they tend to spend most of the time. It comes with the mounting bracket to fit to the wall. And the customer, from what I've been told, they seem to be checking it all the time. And it shows them what they're generating, how much their home's using, how much they're pulling from or giving to the grid. And the actual display is so simple and self-explanatory that I only ever hear good things about it. So could you tell us a little bit more about the Power Insight tablet?
So there's a few different things. So where we're very different to a lot of our competitors is we have full home ecosystem to start with. So with the full home ecosystem, a lot of the times your SLC pumps and other products are controlled by a separate app. So to start off with, we have our own internal software team. We create all of our software, all of our app features within house. We don't white label it, we don't subcontract it out much. It's all done in-house by us. So this allows us to constantly keep doing updates on the system, fix any problems faster. We're pretty much keeping everyone with existing systems up to date with the new software and technology. This then opens it so that you can control all your products through one app instead of multiple. So you've got one whole home ecosystem on one app. Not only do you then have the app, you then have the web portal. The web portal will then allow you to monitor your usage, print out reports, analyze it. But that's also not just beneficial to the end users, but also if you have installers that are providing reports and things to energy companies and things like that, they can then also use that data from the Pro Portal side. On top of that, you can then, if you've got clients that want a bigger screen, they want more accurate control, being able to monitor it at smart devices, matter control devices, Shelly devices, other third-party smart integrations for their home, you use the Power Insight 2. So the Power Insight 2 will allow you to then see everything that you can see on the web portal, everything you can see on the app, and the control of all these smart items all on one tablet. No, it's also a larger screen, so it's a 10.2-inch modular screen. So where you have some clients that will have issues with either not having a smartphone or have issues even seeing a small screen, if they do have a smartphone, it then gives you more comfort to be able to control it on a full monitoring tablet. You walk to your kitchen, see all data, control all your products as well. So it's not just a monitoring screen, it's being able to control your EV car chargers through it, your SLC pumps, all your settings, all your functions, everything that you've got in the web portal on the app, you can control straight on one platform, you end users.
I think it's also important as well that when you have a monitoring tablet, the tariff industry with all the different energy providers which are out there, they're now all very competitive with their tariffs, and you'll start to notice that customers will flick in between the different tariffs which are available for the competitive edge, so they get their savings or the most out of their system. You can control that all through the Power Insight tablet as well, Pam.
Yes, so you can set up all your dynamic tariffs or your integration. If you're using, for example, an Optimus Flux intelligent tariff, you can then integrate that with our AI functions, and then the AI will control it all for you. We know not every installer and end user wants to use AI, so we then also give you capabilities to switch AI off and still manually control and manually input tariffs. We don't just restrict it to an individual tariff. You can use any tariff you like. You just have to input manual time settings, charge changes, price changes, and then you'll then work every single tariff.
But you've got the vast majority of the the energy providers on this. How do you go? You got Octopus, Eon, I guess, EDF.
So because we are international across the whole of Europe, we have different energy providers that have been integrated. So EDF, Eon, Hobo, Octopus,
Tibber for the
for the Nordics. So pretty much we have over 500 different tariff providers that you can use worldwide on our entire system. That's brilliant. So you've got the flexibility with also having things like air source heat pumps and integration with third-party systems as well. Even though you can't control, you can still monitor all your energy usage for those products through our system, but then you'll still have to be using third-party.
And that's also important for us when we're selling ecosystems. We're not just selling solar and batteries. We're fitting AC units, we're fitting air source heat pumps. Being able to then recommend EcoFlow on the PV and battery side, but necessarily an EcoFlow air source heat pump, for example, may not be the best solution for a customer's property. We can then recommend another manufacturer, not that we would, but we tend to design the house to be air source, not the air source to the house.
It's also very beneficial on the fact that a lot of end users, you'll have customers with new build homes, already has the housing association already install specific equipment, but then they don't have the cost to be able to change it out. And you still want to be able to use systems that are already installed in homes, old homes.
Bolt on a PV and link it with your Valent heat pump that's already installed. So the flexibility.
Flexibility is a big thing for all end users now. It's not the cheapest market for everything. As you can imagine, air source heat pumps are phenomenal in price, even though there are government grants and things that aid with them. But then you also have people that have had a system, just moved into a new home. The system's been installed there for the last 2 years. They're not going to just go out and replace a heat pump that's been there for 2 years. And so you want something that's going to integrate with all the new products that you're going to put into the system. So that's where then you have to incorporate to third parties and monitor the power usage and transfer power from batteries to these other devices. Also works out beneficial.
No, I think brilliantly said. And I can personally attest to how having solar and battery storage added to your property, if you do move in as an air source heat pump there, can massively change your life. So when we started this segment, I wanted to talk about what customers should focus on. We talked about product quality, warranty support, software updates, scalability, and it seems like EcoFlow pretty much hit the mark on every single one. One of the main things for me is the installer support, and having somebody in the UK who knows what they're doing, can help you through the installation should you come across any issues, which, to be honest, with EcoFlow, you very rarely do, as opposed with other installations, other bits of kit. But in talking about what should customers focus on, I feel like EcoFlow are definitely the one for most customers. So thank you for talking through those points. Really appreciate it. That nicely moves us on to our next talking point, which was why Renergy ourselves, we actually chose EcoFlow. There are many manufacturers on the market. It can be confusing for the customer, but it can be even more confusing as a company when you're choosing what to sell to those customers. So Elliot, if you could tell me why Renergy we actually chose to partner up with EcoFlow.
Yeah, so there's a number of different reasons that we predominantly now are working with EcoFlow. Personally, from a buyer's point of view, I believe they are one of the best on the market, but just for a number of different reasons. So firstly, a customer will put their faith in an installer to come and make sure that the job is done properly. I'm fully aware that things could go wrong, and installers, which they're on site, we need that technical support. It may be on site, which EcoFlow are absolutely fantastic at doing, or it may be when the guys are then off site as well. What kind of support is there for a customer? The customer can link into the Power Insight tablet, they can go onto their monitoring app, and there's a chat function with UK call centers so they can get the help that they need. From our side, the installation is quick and easy. Customers won't like us on site for 2 or 3 days trying to commission systems. They're quite light in terms of weights compared to other systems which are out there. So quicker, easier installs, which means we're on site for less time. Commissioning process is fairly quick. For us, it's also being able to deliver a competitive but then reasonable price point to the customers. So EcoFlow, one of the better ones, I believe, and fantastic with their competitive pricing. That means not only are customers getting the price that they're after, they are getting some truly amazing technology in their batteries and their inverters compared to other manufacturers which are out there. And it's going to, well, hopefully pick up even more for EcoFlow, which means from our side, it's going to be harder to be able to sell these systems because it's going to get more and more competitive the more installers realize that how good the actual product is. But I think that's important from a customer's point of view. Healthy competition in the industry is only a good thing because it means that EcoFlow are doing something right with all of the technology, but they're putting into all of their kit and the equipment. So there are a lot of things behind the scenes which Renergy do and which we like. So we talk about the USPs of the product itself. One of the reasons that it's really great for a customer, we've briefly spoken about this, but that's the warranty period. So you've got 10,000 cycles warranties within these batteries themselves, but that's then also a 15-year warranty to the customer if they don't get through the 10,000 cycles. When you compare that to other manufacturers out there on the market, it's 50% longer, which means that when we're installing these systems and customers are purchasing these systems, you're not just thinking about the short term. This is an investment which the savings are guaranteed for them 30 years underwritten through the panel performance. They're also through the MCS when you're then doing all your projection savings over 30 years. Being able to then warrant the kit and the equipment that you're installing for half of that period rather than a third of that period is so important. So that's one of the main reasons that we install the kit and the equipment. Not just because we love installing it and commissioning it. It's the value for money for the customer.
I think one of the sorry to interrupt.
It's fine.
It's just you touched I don't want to say touched a nerve there, but you have. When we're on site installing it, the customer does want us there for as little time as possible. We are providing them with a service and a product they've paid for, and they are going to be benefiting from it. But at the end of the day, they do not want us there all day long, and definitely not any longer than need to be. And the two things about EcoFlow that make us be able to be on site for that less time is the ease of install, but you just touched on it there, the ease of commissioning. The commissioning process is unbelievably simple. With other products that I will not mention today, you can be commissioning a system for going on an hour and a half, 2 hours plus, and if things go wrong, even longer. EcoFlow, it must take less than 15 minutes to commission a system when it's done right, and I really, really appreciate that as an installer.
It's the design of a system. They're modular, they're quick, they're easy to install, they're metal, which is important. You don't want to be going out and installing plastic systems that will then start to tarnish in the sun after they've been out there in a while in direct sunlight. They'll then start to go yellow. They've got LED screens. If they're in direct sunlight, they'll then start to fizzle out, and you'll have issues there. So it ticks all the boxes, and it's there for longevity.
For us, it's very much, we limit the warranty for the end user side of things. We want them to have reliability in our system. We trust our system will last that period of time. We give them the cycle so they can use it pretty much however they want to use the system. But then we design the system for the software capability and functionality for the end user. But then we design the actual system for the installers to be able to install quick, knowing for well that you don't want to wire every single battery. You want it plug and play. If they want to expand at a later date, you've got the capabilities of turn aside for 5 minutes and then adding a new battery.
Exactly. It's also not a fit and forget product. I mean, with EcoFlow, one of the other reasons that we love installing them, it's an ecosystem. You can bolt on an air source heat pump. You can bolt on an EV charger, the new bi-directional when that finally lands. But at the moment, we've got the standard EV charger, the Power Pulse. There are loads of other things that you can do with EcoFlow. It's not just the solar and battery and the air source and the EVs. You've got smart light switches. You've got a vast array of different things which the customer may not even be aware of, or the installer might not even talk about, but they are energy-saving products, which will help.
We've opened up the market as well, because even though our portable side of the business runs separate to our residential side, and our ceiling light will run separate with an overlap on the residential side, we've not kind of neglected how to incorporate every single product they would offer. So even with the portable side of the system, you can hook up the same app. You have portable systems in your home at the same time as having a residential system in your home. We try and make everything interaction and as simple as possible for the end user. One app that every single product to be offered.
We haven't even touched about opening up a different portion of the market, which is now plug-in solar. For those customers which don't quite have the roof space, or if they're in flats, for example, they can now still benefit from solar with a company like EcoFlow, with the new kit and the equipment, which is now landed.
That's insane, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Five years ago, you couldn't even think of that.
It's nice also looking at software upgrades as well. So one of the things we are looking into currently and working on constantly is the management aspect, being able to have landlords with multi-story apartment buildings, being able to install systems into those properties.
HMOs are now covered, yeah.
Exactly. So not only do you have just your residential and the portable campers and things like that, you then got CNIs, you've got your housing associations, you've got your landlords involved. It opens up the market not just for the end users and the functionality of their councils approving and government policy changes, it also opens up the market for all installers as well.
And just all of the different things and all of the different aspects that EcoFlow are involved in, it does just give the customer that little bit more reassurance as well, that when they're choosing to go with the product created by EcoFlow, they're not just going with a small-time company or a company that's not trustworthy. They are going for reliability. They really are.
I think that's really important. And I guess the way you answered your question about why you guys choose EcoFlow is probably the same question a homeowner might ask themselves, right, when they're looking in storage. And I think with EcoFlow, it can start with price, then maybe the way it looks, or it's modular.
So someone with multiple quotes with different products.
Exactly.
But you're trying to compare the two.
Exactly. And I think when the products are next to each other, then they might be quite similar in terms of price and spec. So then it's like, well, what else are they offering? You know, like UK hotline and our email support team and like our local sales support team. And you can just keep on going about stuff that EcoFlow does really well at. And I think that's the biggest benefit. And especially with me within marketing, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know which way to look sometimes. It's just like a long list of stuff that we can talk about all the time. And it's not just the product and the price and how it operates, it's actually about everything else that we can offer. Mm-hmm. So I think, going back to your initial question about why EcoFlow, I think for homeowners, just when you are thinking about storage, look past the product and the price. It's not just about that. It's about, the company as a whole.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we do really well.
I feel like you notice that even more so, which has been highlighted with a company like GiveEnergy. Because as soon as a company like that then tails off, if you really aggravate the installation network because the customer service isn't there, not just for their customers, but then also for the installers, they're going to stop recommending your product, which happened. If you then stop recommending the product to the customers, you have a dip in sales. That could then be catastrophic for a company, which you ultimately then saw with GiveEnergy, who were a good company, expanded too quickly, left the network installation behind, and unfortunately in the position that they're in.
I think that's where one thing that we do quite well is we can see the market expansion for us. We can monitor it, track it, but then we're also expanding the team to go along with it. We're not working like most other companies do, where they'll have your R&D and the technical support and everything in China or India or all these other countries. We have pretty much all of our UK-based team on the ground in the UK, but we're not just in one location in the UK. We're spread out across the UK. We've even got staff in Southern Ireland now with sales and technical support. So it's beneficial not just for you guys as managers and installers, but also for your end users as well. We have the hotline, which is a UK-based hotline with UK-based staff. On top of that, we can then send that information either back to you guys as installers to that support then, but then we can also deal with the end users directly through our hotline. If they get stuck with anything app-related functions, how to change their system, adjust their system, what they want to look at, they can contact our hotline to be passed through to a UK-based team.
So they don't need to go back to their installer. They don't need to come back to us at Renergy Solutions. They can go direct to you guys at EcoFlow.
Yeah, so they've got the support there as they need it for our functions. It stops bouncing from person to person, playing past the parcel. End users don't want to call one person, then get passed to another person, get passed to another person. They've got direct points of call. Majority of the time, as you guys are aware, you guys know most of the resolutions for anything that does come up for the end users. But even if you get stuck with those, you've got a direct pathway to contact us.
And I can personally attest to the support that I've received from EcoFlow, being out on site, having to give you guys a call, even not being on site, just at another property, another customer, and having to deal with something at a previous place. You guys are absolutely brilliant. You always answer the phone. You're always there to help. And as an installer, I'd like to say thank you. Really yourself.
It's important for a customer as well that actually, if things do go wrong, and sometimes they do, let's not be naive about it.
They do.
Sometimes we may have to do an inverter replacement. That is not a massive struggle for for us as installers working alongside EcoFlow, we can get the replacement quick and easy. We don't have to charge the customer a call-out fee because it's covered through EcoFlow because of the incentive and the credits that you do. So no one is at a loss.
And the customer's getting that replacement.
And the service is there for a customer, which you may not necessarily get with another manufacturer.
Yeah, you definitely don't with some of them.
We're also growing a Facebook community in the UK as well, which is awesome. So anyone who kind of has a new install, we're sending out a new push notification on the app. So when you download the app and start using the Power Insight, you'll now get a notification about our Facebook community. And we've got so many people now on that page that they all kind of reply to each other without us getting involved, which is just amazing.
So that helps everybody else.
Exactly. So I think, again, for reassurance, people looking who to buy and who to feel kind of safe with, EcoFlow has so many different avenues where you can get support. I mean, even just joining our Facebook community, asking a question, you'll probably get an answer before we've even looked at it.
And you do look at it really quick as well. So
we're on it every single day.
Yeah.
But by the time I go to sort of reply to someone, there's already some like 2 or 3 comments below it with people helping out. So I think to have a UK community is obviously really important, given the fact that we're here, we're local, and we're kind of active every single day.
Yeah, that was great.
I think the community is a big thing. Like the end users want the reliability of not only just having the support, but then also getting real life experiences.
Yeah.
It's all right for installers and us as a manufacturer putting out stories and advertising it, but then having that community where they can actually talk to people who have had the system.
Real life people with real life experiences.
But then when they get stuck and they don't know how to do something on the app, they've got the community to talk to.
Yeah.
Everyone's been through it. Everyone can communicate. Everyone can help out. They can recommend different things. So it's not just having the support from us, but also having the support from you guys as installers, but then also they get the community. It's like a family, the environment for them.
Well, I mean, like you said earlier on, there's so many reasons as to why choose EcoFlow. I'm sure we've only covered a very, very small.
Well, that's why I run a cheap EcoFlow.
We could go on and on and on and on. I mean, that's not a bad thing in itself. It's better to have so many good things to talk about than any bad. And I, for one, can't think of any negatives. So we'll just continue, leave the conversation on a positive, and we'll move on to the next topic. I mean, I did next want to talk about inside the technology, what actually makes EcoFlow equipment and products different. But we've touched on that so much already without even having it as a talking point. For example, we've talked about DC battery management, scalability, safety, monitoring, the firmware updates. I mean, is there anything else about the actual technology inside the product that makes EcoFlow different that we haven't already touched on already?
I'll give you a little insight onto for example, the differences in innovation. So you look at the PowerOcean battery that we've already had, the 5 kilowatt, that's been in the market for just over a couple of years now. And then we spent the last 2 years, we didn't really need to upgrade it. We always put the hardware in the equipment to start with, make it just so it's a sign your upgrade. And because we have the software team internally, we could just keep upgrading and constantly keep updating people's systems. That has meant we then have more time to actually develop a more enhanced product. So we focused heavily on the new Ocean 2 battery. We wanted to decrease the weight, so we've lost 10 kilograms in the weight aspects. We've lost 100 mil in the height, which then makes room for new stackability models. So that allows you then to go from 4 batteries per stack to now 6 batteries per stack because we decreased the height and weight of those. It also makes it easy for installers to install them because you don't need as big a team to know sites to lift them around. So we've got that, but then we've also started doing immersion tests, increasing the IP ratings to 166 for like 65 systems, reinforcing walnut brackets, reinforcing fixings. But then we've added things like explosion valves and extra safety features that are going to make the end users feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, we've then gone from 6, 7 safety features to now 9, 10 safety features per battery. We've added cooling systems into the inverters so that they can monitor through 17-point contacts at temperature monitoring throughout batteries and inverters now, so they can constantly keep regulating the temperature, auto switch on the cooling. But then what we found originally, we did originally do it through the battery power and surplus power node to power all these safety features. What we've now done is when you don't have the battery power and battery and surplus solar, how are you going to power these two?
Yes.
So what we've now done is to upgrade the software again to allow you to have full control over your system through grid power, surplus power from the grid. So that little bit of power that you're drawing from the grid would almost cost you nothing. It's keeping end users even more safe.
And it's not affecting your depth of discharge, right?
It's a few watts as well. Only a
no.
So even though we decreased the size, increased the scalability, increased the safety features, decreased the weight, we then also increased the performance output. So you're going from 3.3 kilowatt and discharge per battery to now 3.4 kilowatt discharge per battery. So we're constantly increasing performance outputs while also condensing the system.
It doesn't seem right. You've actually removed weight, you've decreased size, but you've added all these features. You must have a magician working for you guys over at EcoFlow.
Well, it's one of those ones where we have a full R&D team. Like we said before, predominantly almost half the company is R&D based, technology based. We don't just rely on China and R&D teams abroad to focus on it. We get input into the technology teams.
Well, you're very much involved, aren't you?
Yeah, so we work a lot with every single market. So, for example, you got myself in the UK, who will analyze what the systems and what the installers want and how the end users want their systems to function, but then look at the inside the technology of how we actually going to do this, how we're going to meet the regulations and certifications for the UK market, what is coming. So we'll design it to what is coming, not what is already relevant. Because as you can imagine, with some properties, you'll get systems designed to what they need at that point, but they don't look at what the future regulations, because it's not being done for the UK. With our systems, we pretty much have people in every single country based in that has an input, that knows the market inside and out for the technology and policy changes that are coming into play. But not only do we just design it to the UK market, we also design the Southern Irish market as well, which have different regs. So we make sure that everything that's going to the market is pre-tested, pre-checked, pre-monitored for future government changes. So you're getting a product that is basically guaranteed to meet all government safety rates and everything for the next 10 years, guaranteed.
Wow. Just listening to it, I know we at Renergy Solutions, we install these pretty much every day. But having you guys to tell us all these things that we don't really know, pretty much everything that you guys know about it, it really is fascinating.
You just take one little small nugget out of that, which will impact customers, and that's moving from the PowerOcean 1 batteries, which are stackable by 4, so that's 20 kilowatts. With the small improvements that you've made with PowerOcean 2, there's still a 5 kilowatt battery, but smaller, but lightweight. You've jumped from 20 kilowatts to 30 kilowatts, then with the junction box expanding to 60 kilowatts, or cascading with another inverter, so 120 kilowatts.
But to make it even more impressive is the fact that we brought out the new app.
Another one?
Yeah, I know.
Are you just going to keep going?
Listen to Miles.
DJ Khaled over there.
So one of the good things, like we say, you're not making any of our existing system redundant. So yes, you can install the current PowerOcean inverters, 3 to 6 kilowatt single phases with 4 batteries per stack with the original model, or mixed and matched per kilowatt. But we then meant with the compatibility and the crossover with the new inverters, you don't necessarily need to go with the new inverter model. You can still use the new batteries up to a 30 kilowatts.
So that's having a PowerOcean 1 inverter with a PowerOcean 2 battery already inputted with your PowerOcean 1 batteries. Not having to worry about even the size when you release an 8 kilowatt in September.
Or worrying about the PowerOcean 3. That's
Miles has his way.
Talking about sort of all these changes and new technology coming out constantly. Charlie, I've heard about the PowerOcean 2 Plus with the built-in gateway. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Give that to Miles straight away.
I wanted to give it to Miles, but I felt like we should give Miles a break.
You know, I see. He's the guy to talk to.
Well, no, feel free to take it off.
So the Ocean 2 was developed from a market gap that we had. So we had the PowerOcean 3 to 6 kilowatt inverter. Yes, we had the capability to cascade it 3 times, but then they increased costs and they underpriced us into different markets. And then sometimes it priced you out of the end user's price budget. So what we then did was we then went, okay, we need something to start with to fit between that gap between our 3-phase plus size inverters that started at 15 and then where we ended at 6. So what we then went was we bought out the gateway prior because we needed the gateway to go with our PowerOcean range. Blade had full line backup, multiple inverters connected in with a full backup overall when the system running is one instead of multiple end inverters. So what we then did was we bought out the gateway. We got out of the gateway because it was quicker than bringing out the Ocean 2 because we wanted to.
Something that we asked for from an installer point of view. You listened and you gave it us. Yeah.
But we didn't want to release the Ocean 2 before it was ready for the market. You wanted to make sure everything was up to scratch, tested, up and running cupboard before we even considered launching that. So it was easier for us to bring out the Gateway first, then bring out the Ocean 2 Plus. So what we then did was we then saw the gap, brought out 6, 8, 10, 12 kilowatt single phase options. We then added in, okay, we're now limited with the new battery with the old inverters to 30 kilowatt hours. We then went, okay, we're going to expand that, give you 3 MVPTs instead of 2, more PV sizing. As you can imagine, some commercial properties still use single phase, and that so then works for them as well. But then you also want to use some ground mounts to larger properties as well. So you've got that capability. So we're then like, okay, we'll go from 2 MVPTs to 3 MVPTs, increase the voltage ranges. So on the original, you're going between a range of a minimum start of 90 all the way up to 520. Mm-hmm. Now you're going from 120 startup voltage per MVPT, but they won't shut off until they drop below 50 volts now. You drop all the way down to 50 volts, but you need the minimum startup voltage. You go on 20. Yeah. You've got 3 MVPT, but then that also then increases your range all the way up to 820 volts. Wow.
How many panels can you get on that string?
Depends on the panels you use. Yeah. But once you analyze it, you then get 3 MVPT, you can go into a very large system. But then we then went, okay, what's next? How do we limit the size of the system? Where's the DNA limitations? Okay, we're going to go for a 200% oversize on PV on every single one of those net models. So you've got 6 kilowatt inverter, you can do 12 kilowatts PV generation. You've got 12 kilowatt inverter, you can do 24.
That's very much important. So another example, DNOs, with the customers, if they are being limited with the size of the inverter, with a 200% oversizing ratio.
Size of PV.
Now it's massive for a customer, because you can have a 6 kilowatt inverter that performs like a 12.
Yeah. I mean, because that's something we see constantly over at Renergy is customers wanting to fill their roof space with solar panels, customers wanting these larger inverters, and the pesky DNO coming along and just saying, no, you can't do that. So for EcoFlow to be doing what they're doing with their tech to allow the customer to have, like you say, a 6 kilowatt system running like a 12, it's amazing.
But then moving further on from that, we then went, okay, yes, it's going to cost more, we're getting all this take in it. When you look at PowerOcean with a gateway, you're then buying a gateway separate. That's an additional cost. You're buying meters, RCDs, MCDs, MCBOs, all these added other things. We then went a bit further. We then went, okay, we're going to add a smart meter built into the inverter now. Don't need that separate. Less wiring, less cost there. We then went, okay, we don't need the gateway necessarily separate. You only need up to a 72 amp most property. Threw that into the inverter. So now you've got full home backup with the gateway capability built into the inverters instead of having it separate. But then some properties will still require 100 amps. So we then allowed cross compatibility to then add in again, very separate if you did need it up to 100 amps. So we basically took in everything that you guys and installers wanted. We tried to look at the cost aspect and the ratios of that, but then we wanted to try and cut down how many wiring, other devices you plug in, connections, cut down costs as much as possible. So it's easier, one, for you to then go to an end user. You've got all of this, but you've got all the safety features, you've got all the tech. It's not going to be messy on the house. You're not having all these other devices all over your house. There's wiring, trips running everywhere.
And it still looks pretty.
Well, that's one of the main things is when you have a gateway. Now, just for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what a gateway is, a gateway allows for you to have full house backup during a moment where you can't rely on the grid, whether it be a power outage or for any other reason. Your solar system, your PV, your batteries, the gateway allows that to power your house where there is no grid support there. Now, it's great, but you always have to add a separate gateway, and you've got your inverter, your batteries, and then you've got the gateway. But for EcoFlow to have designed the PowerOcean 2 Plus and to not have that extra big piece of equipment, the gateway itself, it really is brilliant and is something that I know customers are going to appreciate.
So it was basically taking some of the technology features that we had in the 3-phase plus that everyone liked, the larger system. They were like, okay, we'll just cut it down and transfer some of the tech from that and they enhance the tech as well. But then even moving on from single phase to 3-phase, we've now kept everything modular. So previously with our 3-phase models, you had to install the inverter separate from the battery stacks, use junction boxes. We've now made that modular. We've now made it look exactly the same as our single phase Ocean 2 Plus. But instead of having 72 amp backup gateway built in, we've now got a 63 amp per phase backup gateway built into a 3-phase inverter. But we're not discontinuing things off the market either. So we still run PowerOcean on the market. We still got the 3-phase that sits in the same inverter size range, because not everyone, when you're using a 3-phase inverter commercial projects, not everyone's going to want to have your batteries in the same ring as your inverter for safety features, depending on the building you're installing it on. So that then gives you the opportunity between two inverters. Do you want modular as one stack, or do you want your stacks in one room, inverter in a separate room? Then you've got distance to put your inverter 20 meters away from battery stacks which you're constantly. We've kept the flexibility for all product scenarios and product range scenarios.
You're thinking not just outside the box, you think about every possible scenario where you're going to have the installation. Do we have to do it this way, that way, this way? EcoFlow just fits into any situation, any environment. And it's definitely one of the things that makes you guys stand out from anyone else. What I wanted to do really was talk about the home of 2030. What's coming for the customers, the users of this equipment. Let's basically take a look ahead. What do you guys think? Now, this is definitely something I can ask you, Charlie, so don't you try and fire it off at Miles. What do you think the average UK house will look like in terms of the energy usage, the technology inside the house in 2030?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to go from strength to strength. And I think what Miles was talking about with the software that we have internally and the guys continuously working, updating, I think that's one of the biggest things that we can offer, because we can update stuff, offline, if you like, outside of the home. So I guess more and more people are going to buy in solar and storage for one. I think, with the heat pumps and, EV charging and everything, I think homes in 2030 are going to have a lot more of that going on. But I think from an EcoFlow point of view, especially talking about the fact that we've got 50% of our team as R&D, we are keeping ahead of where that's going. So I think it's going to be more intuitive. I think people are going to be way less reliant on the grid. I think the more it kind of grows and the more that people install it, I think, even with word of mouth recommendation, I think that still is kind of like growing a little bit. So by 2030, I think it will probably be more homes having solar and storage versus not.
Yep.
True. And I think more and more people are going to want to be less reliant on the grid. I know we've already touched on that a little bit, but I think people moving forward want to have kind of their home to themselves and to operate it how they like to and manage it by themselves. And again, with the software that we're doing with EcoFlow and the continuous kind of upgrades and updates we're doing with energy providers, that's only going to continue and only going to get better. So it's probably going to be easier to install, maybe, even with future iterations, maybe they're
even easier,
even lighter, even quicker. And I just think the entry into it for a homeowner is going to be easier and probably more understandable, and the kind of education around it is going to be better known. So I think the whole thing completely, the whole setup of what EcoFlow can offer, especially, it'll be easier, and I think it'll be more common, and I think a lot more people will be using it.
I feel like that compounded with the integration now of AI, which is now touching not just our industry, but every single industry that we have. The integration of AI is then going to start to optimize systems. When systems have been optimized because it's always learning a customer's habits, you're then going to start to save a hell of a lot more money. You're really maximize your savings.
API integration with all the other third-party devices is not just going to be one small part of a package. Is going to be, you have the API integrations, you will have the AI talking and controlling multiple different devices, smart plug connectors, smart lighting, smart heating, thermostat monitoring, heating control systems, TVs, EV car chargers. You're going to pretty much advance over the next 5 years, depending on government policy changes, to then make people pretty much independent completely and variety usage.
I think there's going to be a time soon where people will find it strange that we used to buy all of our energy from the grid, and people are going to look at us and go, how on earth did you do that? How on earth did you survive? And I think that time is coming a lot sooner than we think. Elliot, you being a large figure in the renewable energy market for a long time. I'm sure you've seen many changes happen. I know one big thing is that the cost of having solar and battery storage installed that you're
dramatically reduced.
Come down massively.
Absolutely.
What other changes do you feel that will be coming based on ones you've seen already over the years?
Well, let's just have a look at our industry as a whole. So we had the feed-in tariff. Feed-in tariff was predominantly just PV kept at a 4 kilowatt system. Government regulation then changed, that feed-in tariff then stopped. So then customers then cottoned on to battery storage. Battery storage is now having such a large impact on the homeowner, being able to maximize savings, reducing their reliance on the grid, which are all good things. For me, we then now have a whole suite of new innovations coming around the energy market. We have virtual power plants. We have demand flexibility, which will then allow customers to then gain extra revenue by optimizing their systems and then also adding their systems into these events, which, for example, your smart export guarantee tariff, predominantly market average of 15 pence, let's say. You then have a virtual power plant. During certain times, during what we call an event, you can now get £1 a kilowatt if you are opted in to then help the grid jump back into frequency. That's absolutely massive. But how many homeowners know that that's available? It's already available, but it's being developed more and more and more. There are loads of other companies which are now being able to do the optimization of virtual power plants, skipping a hell of a lot further into the future. When you then feel like, oh, actually, we were buying energy from the grid. That seems archaic. Imagine a world where we then have, for example, the way that our electric works, DC and AC. Imagine eliminating AC electric. Wow. Tesla's dream. You got to think, home energy systems, DC. Electric cars, DC. Computers, DC. Soon AC, in the future, is going to be redundant. I feel like that's the vision. I feel like we're going to go down that way, but certainly so.
I could go one or two ways with that, with the AC, because even with our developments and things, we are looking at a big chunk of the market still with the AC, but it kind of has its moments. It's like the solar industry and the air source heat pump industry is constantly growing, but then it has those dips, and then new ideas come out, and there are dips and more new ideas.
The solar coaster we all like to bull.
This is my stuff. So, but a lot of it is guided by what installers want, what the manufacturers want to do with product supply and users need. And I think government changes over the last few years has started to open its eyes more to actually going, we're going to stop de-restricting what you can and can't do. And then the energy providers, great example of it. They like to bring out multiple tariff options, and then the end users don't know which tariff is best for them.
Sport for choice.
And now what solar companies, for example, like this person down there, they've started cutting down the options. They've figured out what the sweet spot options are for their users. The EV car charger specifics are like Cozy, and the intelligent flux for AI features and things. And then, as you can imagine, half the others that were originally there a year, 2 years ago, most of them have disappeared, and they've just focused on set ones down. So I think even the energy providers now start to get smarter with the choices they're providing and realizing renewable energy is a big thing on the market, and they now need to actually create tariffs specific for that. It's then saving energy companies a lot of money and having to expand on the solar farms and things like that as quick, because they're not able to do it as quick due to inspections, site surveys, etc. Which then allows the homeowner to go, okay, now I can make the profit on the outlays, get myself a battery system, support the grid, sell what I'm not using back to them, make money back, go net zero, and it also save.
I agree, and that also then compounds with the other elements that make up our industry. It's not just a great installation network, it's not just great manufacturers, it's then also having affordable finance for customers to adopt these measures in the first place. We're seeing more and more players coming into the market to make solar affordable, to make these changes, to reduce their reliance on the grid, to gain their energy independence. So I think that's only great for the industry.
So it seems like the home of 2030 is going to be a energy efficient one. It's going to be one where there's less reliance on the grid, perhaps no reliance on the grid, and there's definitely going to be lots more solar PV and battery storage installed in the majority of homes across Britain. But we know that for a fact. Just move on to something a little bit more fun. I wanted to talk about some popular myths within the solar industry or about solar. So one that I've heard mumbled a few times is that solar panels and solar energy doesn't work in the UK because we don't have the best weather. How do you guys feel about that?
I think it's it's a bad myth to be out there.
Yeah.
I agree. There's sunlight in every single country. I think the limitation is probably even the Antarctic, I guess, sunlight where you need it. I think it's more down to the property and the orientations of the property and how they're installing it. I think it's trying to work out exactly how much sunlight you get a day. You've got to analyze the fact that, yes, you're with the times you're not going to get as much generation. Yes, summertime you're going to get more generation. And it's just taking that into consideration, really. I don't think it's the fact that people love to say solar doesn't work in the UK. I think it probably works. One of the biggest markets, we look at it from our side of the business, and we're seeing more systems generating and installing and getting more power consumption and money back from their providers in the UK than we do in, say, countries like Italy and France, who are meant to have more supply.
Yeah.
It's quite a big miss. We even get high generations. For example, we have systems installed in Shetland Islands, which is an island north of Scotland.
Yeah.
And that surprisingly gets a lot of generation.
Yeah, imagine that. I think it also then compounds with systems being designed properly, and then also the different types of panels, which have now become available. So we always talk about R&D, EcoFlow being a great example. But then you think about the technology which is now available to customers. Back in the feed-in tariff, you have polycrystalline panels at 250 watts. You've now got massive size panels, the monocrystalline, but bifacials, which allow that extra generation increase in efficiency, therefore your generation.
Yeah.
To say that you're not really going to be generating, myth.
Myth busted. Busted.
If you want to go as far as to say, like, the benefit battery storage and inverters, you don't necessarily need the solar panels.
No.
You can go, okay, I'm on this tariff and I want to buy at this price range back from the grid. You want to store power when you're not using it, and then you put that battery storage system. You can buy a cheap rate on the grid, store it in your batteries, and then use it when you use
Well, you know,
price.
speaking directly to customers who are considering having solar and battery, who perhaps don't even have a lot of roof space at all, I always say to them, you forget those solar panels completely. Just think about your battery storage. You can get your off-peak rate is 1/3 of the cost of your peak rate of electricity. You get enough battery storage to cover your daily usage. You can remove 2/3 of your energy bill just by having the battery storage without even thinking about your solar panels.
And then you think of the advancements of that even more. So say during the day you're not at home and it's cheaper for you to buy power during the day. You'll buy it at a certain rate. Then you'll use a certain amount of the power. But if you've got a decent sized battery storage system, when it comes to that time where it's high price and you use battery power, you're not going to use all that battery power. I don't think that's system. So you can then sell that back to the grid again. And even though you bought it from the grid, you can sell it back to the grid and gain more money that way.
Again, that's where EcoFlow's AI would perhaps come into it as well.
It's where the big trading market for energy trading is coming into play now.
Exactly. Battery optimization.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that myth busted then.
I think it's, fairly maybe logical. I think I'm, way less techie than Miles. So given my background, I think there is kind of, typical Brits, right, talking about the weather, but if it's overcast all day, then I think it's kind of fair in a way and logical that someone would think I wouldn't get the solar energy. But I think it's probably our job to educate the consumer moving forward. And I think that's when we're talking about, in 4 years' time, what does it look like? I think if we do our jobs right and educate and tell people about, bust these myths, then I think, again, more and more people are going to buy into it.
No, I think you're right. It's definitely a reasonable assumption to get to if you're outside of the industry.
Yeah.
When it's not very sunny, they're generating a lot. But you see systems that on an overcast day that are generating upwards of 2 kilowatts just because it's installed correctly. There's optimizers in place on the panels as well. So there are definitely things you can do to the panels to help the fact that it may be slightly overcast. But yeah, this is a massive one that you hear all the time. Batteries take years to get paid back for themselves. You spend X amount on a battery, you're going to be waiting a long while for that battery to pay for itself. And it's just not the case, is it?
No, it's heavily not the case anymore. It used to be when there wasn't the functionalities of the dynamic tariffs and the export capabilities as advanced as they are now, which the last year and a half has kind of picked up heavily, especially with the export trading side of things. So I would say it definitely depends on how you use your system, what you're planning to use your system for, how much battery and storage you have. But these days, you can pay back a system in as little as 2 years, depending on how you're using the system, especially if you start doing export trading. all this surplus energy you're not getting, you're going net zero, then you're making profit back, you're making the system back a lot quicker. It's not only you saving money from not actually having any bills, but you can also then make money back at the same time. So paying your system back is very quick. It's quite a big topic area of analyzing how you're using the system, having the system designed appropriately for your needs and your requirements in the first place, and how big you go with the system depending on what you want to do. Yeah, not everyone's going to be software savvy in knowing how to use their system this way, and then it's big talk and they can do this, they've got the capabilities to do this is the big thing.
Well, that's one of the really good things about choosing Renergy Solutions as an installer. We know a lot about how to design the system, how to manipulate it, how to use it, and how to make sure that it's been used to its full ability for the customer. We'll set them up with their original system. If they want to make changes, they can contact us. And the great thing about using EcoFlow, they can contact you guys as well, and they really can get everything they possibly can out of that system.
Couldn't agree more.
I think it's also another great thing about using Renergy as an installer is the fact that you take the time and effort before the system. You're not just selling them any old system. You're not just going, okay, this is a quick, easy job. We'll give them a 3.68, quick, done.
It's one of the most important steps.
You're going in and you're physically working out the requirements and the needs to make your customers net zero or as close to net zero as possible to start with. You're designing around that, and then you're finding out all the other needs that they need or require for the system, and you're designing a system specifically for each customer. It's not the same system for everyone. It's customized designs for every single install you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, we do try to take that approach with every single customer, don't we, Elliot?
Yeah, I agree. It's also trying to compete with those companies which unfortunately do offer off-the-shelf systems, which not necessarily having the correct conversations with the customer to understand their consumption, how they're going to be using their system, what are their habits like, do they know their load at any one time, to be able to kind of forecast, right, you need X, Y, or Z size battery, what size inverter is suitable, to then be able to optimize that system to make use of external tariffs which may be available.
I think it's a bit of a dying market on the whole, teaching your end users and teaching them about the system, giving the education of what they need to know to make the decision to start with. There's been quite a lot of install companies on the market these days that start up and then go out of business very quickly. But that's because they just go for the bog standard quicker system. They install no random customization, no interaction. The relationship, keeping that relationship with installer to end user.
Cheapest isn't always best, in my opinion.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. There's been many, many companies start up and go within the same year. And I think, like you say, one of the main reasons is that they don't choose the right product. They don't assist the customers correctly. They just want to be in and out. And that's just not what you're going to get with Renergy Solutions, which I know is why EcoFlow was quite pleased that we're going to partner up together. And hopefully a lot more customers are going to continue to keep choosing us, and we'll keep installing EcoFlow products. I've got one final myth for you. It pertains back to the last one, that this one is very, very common. In fact, I used to believe myself. I'm going to admit.
How long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, and I won't say when I only stopped believing in it either. That you can only have panels installed on a south-facing roof.
No, that's a big one on the industry. A lot of people think south-facing. Yes, south-facing is your highest optimal roof. Yeah. Direct sunlight. It's also why a lot of inverters we say don't install on south-facing walls either. So, because it's the direct sunlight, the highest performance of sunlight. You can do different orientations of roof. Pretty much the only one I would advise probably not to install on is a direct north-facing roof, because you're going to have very little sunshine on there. Every other orientation, whether it's south, east, west, dual roofs, triple roofs, quad roofs, depending on how your building's orientated, you'll get generation up, or there'll be rotation. You use optimizers to analyze optimizing one side of your roof over part of your day, and then when it rotates to the other side of your roof, then you get the generation on the other side, and it optimizes then even more.
And the different MPPTs that you can get with the EcoFlow products, you can have up to, was it 3 on ring now? Yeah.
3. So it depends if you go 3-phase. You get 3-phase, you go on to 4. So you've got the different orientations. We've got integration with Tiger Optimizer and things, so you can add them into the system and optimize every individual panel. So it doesn't really matter which roof orientation, as long as it's not on facing roof. You've got 3 different orientations that you can use. You'll have houses that do east-west systems all the time. You have houses that just do south facing along died. But there's always generation as long as you design the system appropriately.
And that's important. It's designing the system properly. Actually, if you've got a fairly limited amount of roof space available, it's picking the correct size wattage panel. There's a vast array of different wattage panels out there. It's maximizing the roof space with the maximum size wattage panel that you can get. It's also the type of panel where you want bifacial, monocrystalline. That myth kind of generated from polycrystalline panels with the blue frame, the silver aluminum frame around the outside of them. The old panels, they needed direct sunlight on them. To get direct sunlight, well, you need to put them on a south-facing roof.
Yeah, it's also
To each kilowatt peak.
Even though we're advancing technology and investing in the battery storage system, the panel market is also enhancing quite quickly. I remember when I was first in the industry, we were all the way down at 210 watt panels. Now, what size are we up to now? Some companies are doing up to 720.
Yeah, and they're only getting bigger.
But not only are they increasing the panel size and the wattage size, but they're also increasing the performance of cells within those panels, which then makes it more optimal for any residential property. More enhancements of energy, increased energy performance output, different orientations to sunlight generation. It makes it nice.
Yeah, it's the same thing for whether or not you're a residential customer, whether or not you're a small commercial business owner, or whether or not you've got a large-scale business unit that you want to install. It does not matter, as long as the system's been designed properly.
There is a panel for everybody.
Absolutely.
Now, on that note, will we see an EcoFlow panel anytime soon?
And that's one I'll have to say no comment to.
Go on, give us a little bit. What else is... So we've got solar and storage coming up in September. You're going to normally use that event to launch a product. We saw it at Intersolar just a couple of days ago. I was there. We saw the C&I batteries. So you've got the Alp, you've got the Atlas. We saw it recently at Solar and Storage in April, where you then brought PowerOcean 2 to the market. What's coming in Birmingham?
In Birmingham, it's going to be the focus on the C&I market for us. We're still determining what we're going to bring across. A lot of things we've released into the European market, into solar. We still haven't decided what we're going to fully upgrade and launch in the Birmingham show. We know C&I is officially going to start January next year. The UK markets, it's probably going to be a big push on educating people more on the Ocean 2 Plus range, with possibility of maybe seeing new EV car charger range. Little insights, but the availability of that's going to be later on in the year or possibly start next year. So we might give a little
more software, app tweaks, that type of thing. You then have batteries.
There is software and functionality.
All nice.
Software. We love a good software change.
I've heard it's equally as important as the kit that you're installing. It's the customer service element to ground the customer, actually be able to use and interact with their system is as equally important as the installation and the product you're picking itself.
One of the big things we heavily worked on over the last year was we've always focused on the end user app function, and as you can imagine, a lot of installers, we've made the commissioning process on Pro App very simple for installers. So you give you all the visibility of the data and everything, but we kind of focused on the end user app a lot more because we left it simple for you guys as installers, gave the end user everything wanted. We're now at a stage where we've got all the foundations and everything in place for all the end users, we've got Antares Intelligent AI, etc., etc. So we can constantly keep working on that bit by bit. So now what we've been doing over the last few months is a full kind of refresh of the Pro app, where the functionalities, the control mechanisms that you'll have on from some of the end user app.
To the installer being able to help and assist the customer, our end, absolutely.
That's great. That really good.
Yeah, I can't give too much insight on Bell here, please. But there is a section that's going to be coming with some small release updates for the end user app, but there's going to be a heavy function release for the Pro and the installer side of the system.
So I do sort of want to close with a very important question. I'll just put it to everybody, and whoever feels that they can answer it can. I wanted to see if, say there's somebody listening today who's considering solar and battery storage, but they haven't yet taken that first step. What piece of advice would you give them?
Give Renergy Solutions a call.
That's all right. And EcoFlow.
I'd use it. Well, if they go with Renergy Solutions.
Good for you.
For you,
automatic.
So apart from those two very obvious pieces of advice, any others in particular?
I'm sure the guys here will agree with me. It's the importance of education. So if you're just starting off your journey, do a little bit of research on the different products which are out there. Even before you get quotes, there's so much abundant information which is now readily available. You've got lots of podcasts like our own. You've got lots of other different YouTube channels. Have a read, have a listen, see what kind of research that you can do, because there's a whole suite of panels which are available. It's a whole suite of batteries which are available. How do I know which one is right for myself? Then also do a little bit of research about what types of quotes are you getting? Which installers do you want quotes from? It's important to make sure that you get a home survey, because you need to make sure that the roof is in a good condition to have solar. If you're getting online appraisals, no one's come out to actually inspect the roof, what condition that it may be in, would there be any snags or any hiccups or anything like that. So it's important for a homeowner to then also get a site survey. Get free quotations. Make sure that you're doing your due diligence on these companies, comparing these quotes. Why has this company done one type of battery while another company has given me another type of battery? It's important to ask questions to the installer and for them to give a comprehensive answer as to why they've selected X, Y, or Z kit, X, Y, or Z panel, because you're going to have multiple quotes. And I'm sure there's even people listening right now that have been looking for quotes, even not just for day one, but for years, and still haven't made the push because there's just so much information out there.
Just bombard you with it sometimes.
Exactly. You only need to go on, you get one quote, you're bombarded with so many marketing videos. It's so highly competitive, and that's only a good thing for the industry, which means that prices have obviously come down, but it then means that there's quite some bogus information which is out there. So do your research and settle with a company which have all the correct accreditation. So your MCS, making sure that they've got highs or REC in place, that they've actually got their insurance underpinned. Ask to see these certificates, ask to see these accreditations. From me, as putting myself into the customer's shoes. Right, brilliant.
Like one of the biggest things I would say is, like you say, education is great. Do your research, analyze what you actually want out of the system. Don't panic on the pricing aspect so much, because you can always expand the system at a later day. Work out what your budget is for a system to start with. Work out what's the bare minimum you want out of the system. Then work out your next 5-year plan of how you want to expand that system. Now, work out how your energy and things is going to change over those periods, and kind of work out what you're looking for in a system, whether or not that's starting with one battery. If you dip your toe in, get the whole overall system design. Find an installer that you trust, rely on their energy. Get all the information you can from the system. Do your research first. Get them to design you the full system that you want in 5 years' time. And then work out a stage plan of when you want each stage installed. You don't have to do it all in one go. No. For example, you don't need to do the panel straight away, but it's great to know you can do panels at a later date. You can start with just the inverter and one battery. You can buy power from the grid, store it, use it afterwards. Say in a year's time, you've got more finances available. You can then expand, add the panels at that stage, or another generation, or another battery. Yeah. Then maybe in 3 years' time, you get an EV car. You've got capabilities to then add the EV car charger. Don't panic about doing it all in one go. If you can't afford it, do it in stages. Work out what your budgets are, how much generation. Who knows? You may be a single person occupant to start with. You then might get married, might have kids. Your needs are going to change over time. Just make sure you got the safety aspect that you can expand the system you're purchasing at a later date.
And I know here at Renergy, if someone, a customer, was to come to us and say they were interested in the system, but not quite perhaps know what it was they were looking for, we would talk them through their plans for the future, where they see their house, their energy usage, their system being in 5 years' time. We're not just going to say, right, we think you need this. We'll talk them through their options. We'll talk them through their finances are at, their budget, and we'll sort of get that plan in place for them, no matter what their situation.
And then on top of that, just make sure when you do pick the inverter and battery storage, pick something like an eco where it's going to secure you for a future of innovation. It's not going to be outdated by the time you come to upgrade to your system. It's going to be still in date with the latest software, latest capabilities to match all of the existing. There's nothing worse than having an inverter that then doesn't match your batteries. Yeah. You've got multiple things looking, one in grey, one in white. EV car charger from another device. You got multiple apps. Just
Frankenstein's system.
make sure you do research. You've got something that's going to last you that long time. That's also going to stay up to date It's not going to get outdated in the future. But also, where EcoFlow is great for it is the cross-compatibility aspect. Everything we develop in the future is going to be still cross-compatible and fully up to date with all of our previous systems.
So you make sure it's EcoFlow, basically. That's what we're saying.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the needs of the homeowner, because I think, naturally we talk about growing and, more batteries, more stacks or whatever, but I think some people may not want that. They may not need that. You might have a family already, you know exactly what you're using every single day, and actually your family are going to grow up and probably move out, so maybe you won't actually look at maximizing it. So it's understanding what you want from it, because I think as well also with solar it's more the renewable side of things, whereas battery storage is more, it can be more about money. And people are motivated by money, but other people are motivated by having a renewable home. And
A lot more people nowadays
Yeah.
are actually going that way, yeah.
exactly. So I think, like you say, it's always bespoke to what the person wants and why they need it or what they need it for. So I think if anyone's kind of shopping around for it, I think it's understanding what you want from it. And then, obviously talk about the quotes and then taking your time, research, but then outside of the product and exactly how it's fitted, again, the company, the background.
How should they be truly valued?
Yeah, service.
All these things we've touched on.
Yeah, what do you want to be reassured? Do you want to be safe for the future, or do you want to have a quick, easy, cheap system?
I know what I'd rather go for.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just understanding your needs and doing your research and making sure you're making the right decision.
No, I think they're all definitely valid things that a customer should consider before making that poor dip in their toe into solar and battery storage. That's been absolutely brilliant talking to you both. Thank you both very much. Elliot, thank you as always. It's always a pleasure. It's been really great, really insightful. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about EcoFlow or discuss whether solar and battery storage is suitable for you, then please get in touch with the team at Renergy Solutions. Thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll see you soon.